Good morning. Welcome to Breaking Points. I am back once again in the soccer seat. You're going to have to put up with it for another day. I'm so sorry, Crystal, but
we'll make it work.
It's a gift, really.
Lots to get to in the show this morning. We just got some Trump financial disclosures and truly world historic levels of corruption. Billions of dollars that he and his family have profited off of the presidency this time around. Break down those numbers. Also, we got a little bit of insider trading, a little bit of Qatar Force One, a lot going on there. And it's such a hard story to cover because I feel like nearly every day there is a incredibly consequential corruption story that we could be covering. It's just so overwhelming that it's hard to adequately get into the show with the frequency with which it truly deserves.
And there's a Trump quote we're going to talk about in that block that explains why that is, I think.
Yes, very good point. We're also going to have Shrita Parsi join us to break down these new comments from Vice President J.D. Vance, where he seems to maybe kind of give up the game of what the Trump administration is really up to with regard to this memo of understanding. We also are taking a look at the DSA coalition. Who are voting for these candidates? What does it say about the future of the country, the future of the party? What are the attacks? We've got the numbers from Michael Lang to break down truth from fiction on that front. MTG and Tucker are thinking about launching a third-party effort. Could that succeed? What would that look like? We also have an update for you on several significant members of Congress and their health status. Mitch McConnell continues to be hospitalized after having been found unconscious. Very scary situation there. Representative Tom Keene is back after 4 months out, he says, because of depression. So pretty interesting from a guy who votes against paid time off. So we'll get into all of those sorts of things.
Yes, and I just have to say, Crystal, before we jump into the show, today's bottom bar, for the listening audience, it is much, I think, cleaner than yesterday's bottom bar, which I believe involved MK Ultra, brains.
Yesterday's bottom bar was a little chaotic, but in a good way.
It was, yeah. It was our own sort of Operation Chaos, the Operation Bottom Bar Chaos.
I always watch the show, even when I'm not on it, because I learn a lot from my fellow co-hosts. And yeah, I was like, okay, we got an eclectic mix of topics today.
So. When Juan Rojas came on, he looked at the bottom bar and he's like, what the hell is going on with this show today? Yeah, before we went there.
Kyle and I watched the brain segment together, which was really fascinating.
Romantic.
And which people, isn't that sweet? That's the sort of thing we do. Which anyway, people seem to really respond to. A lot of people watched it.
Yep.
You guys hooked them in with the medical establishment stunned or whatever the headline was.
True.
But it was a truly fascinating segment. So I love you and Ryan tend to look like a little bit further afield, and I like that.
Ryan, man, he brings the craziest
Ryan
stuff
in particular.
Yes. He's the new Andrew Huberman. You heard it here first. We should also mention, by the way, if you want newsletter versions of Crazy Ryan segments, breakingpoints.com. Go ahead, subscribe.
Which you guys know. You can't watch that brain segment and then just leave it there. You got to dig into the newsletter. You got to find okay, what's the study? What is he talking about? Let me see a little bit more. So there's a free version. There's a version premium subscribers you should already be getting. By the way, if you aren't, what is it? Support@supercast.com.
Right.
If you're having any trouble at this point. But so far the response has been really great, and we're really proud and excited to bring that to you. So all right, let's go ahead and jump into the details here that we are learning with regard to the truly extraordinary corruption to the tune of billions of dollars in a single year to Trump, and then even more to his family. We're not even going to fully get into that today. In any case, Trump got asked about some of these new disclosures. Let's go ahead and take a listen to how he is responding to some of these new revelations.
I don't get involved in my personal. We have funds that run my money.
Well, you are benefiting.
Well, I've made a lot of money before I became president, and they invest my money, and I don't talk to them. I don't even speak to them. So I have many people. I don't know what they call it, closed accounts or something. You put your money in, and that's it. I don't talk to them. They're big institutions, and they run it. But yeah, I've had a great career. In business, I've had a great career.
It's about conflict of interest.
I don't know if I've had a better career in politics or business, but I had a great career in business. And, you saw the cash, and you report the different things. And what they do is, we gave it, I think it's called the blind account, but they take it. And I never speak to any of the people that run the money, but they're at big institutions, and they invest in whatever they invest.
But critics say you're profiting off the president.
Well, you know why I'm profiting? Because the stock market's going up. Everybody's profiting. If you have a 401k, how's your 401k done? It's about up 85%. Thank you, President Trump.
There's actually so much to get into just with that one clip, Emily. First of all, for those of you who are just listening, standing in the background are his two sons, who are deeply involved in all of the business ventures, maybe not specifically the stock trading, although who knows, but the crypto ventures, which are where the vast bulk of the wealth has been accumulated in Trump 2.0. That is run by his sons. He's like, I don't talk to the money people. They're standing right there, and they're your own children. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, he says, oh, well, my money went up because the stock market went up because I'm such a great president. Everybody's benefiting. Well, again, the vast bulk of the wealth that has been accumulated is billions of dollars from these crypto scams, which anybody out there who has crypto holdings, you tell me how the crypto market has been doing, and specifically how your investments, if you dare to invest in the Trump coin, how they did. There's a breakdown we're going to show you in a moment. They made $2.3 billion, and that all came on the other side with $2.3 billion of losses. Many of the people who are suffering the most are his fans who were tricked into investing in this thing and have lost basically everything.
Right.
So, this is not about, the stock market went up, so I just happened to benefit. And then even on the stock market piece, we're going to show you thousands of trades that were made, and some of them timed in a very specific way seemingly coordinated with actions that were taken directly either by him or by his administration.
Well, also, Trump famously reads several papers front to back every single morning, like physical papers. He gets them printed out, New York Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, and New York Post, of course. And so for him to say that he's not aware of how these decisions are being made, let's just hypothetically, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say he's not talking to Don and Eric about World Liberty Financial. We remember, by the way, that was pasted on the octagon during the UFC fight. The World Liberty Financial branding was on it. But you give him the benefit of the doubt on that one. He is damn well aware of what's happening with World Liberty Financial, with the investments that his son-in-law Jared Kushner has, even just if it's through the media. Because once again, we know he watches Fox News, and we know Fox News doesn't do much coverage of this, but he actually does read these papers front to back every single morning. This is like a well-known fact reported about how he spends the early hours of his day. And so for him to say that he just knows nothing, that none of this would be in his head while he is making governing decisions, is flatly ridiculous.
Oh, of course. And so A2, we can put this up. I think he gave a much more honest answer back in January to the New York Times when they asked him why, having told his family not to make new business deals in foreign countries during his first term as president, he was permitting them to do so now. He said, I found out nobody cared. I'm allowed to. So I think this is, specifically about Kushner et al. Making all of these foreign business deals. But I think this is the true sentiment that he has embraced with regard to his own profiteering off of the presidency and, just incredibly corrupt dealings. The crypto piece is really the locus of the bulk of the wealth that has come in. And I mean, this is the top use case at this point for cryptocurrencies at large, is like being able to to facilitate corruption specifically for the president of the United States and his family. Also, further to the point of whether or not, he's involved in any of these deals. The New York Times had reporting, A8 actually put this up on the screen, about how he pushed specifically to grant access to this tungsten mine in Kazakhstan that his sons are a part of, the company that's going to be able to exploit the mining in this region. So he directly pushed for that. So there's no doubt whatsoever that he is directly involved in these deals, that he is talking to the deals, that he is pushing things on foreign countries to benefit him and his sons directly. Let's go ahead and put A3 up on the screen here. These are some of the details that came out in this financial disclosure. Trump pulled in at least $2 billion after returning to the White House. The release of a mandatory financial disclosure for 2025 shows the Trump family's holdings, particularly the president's crypto businesses, were stunningly lucrative. All told, they say the president pulled in at least $2.2 billion, a figure that includes other parts of his vast holdings, such as real estate assets. That compares to a minimum of $622 million his enterprises pulled in for all of 2024 before he returned to the presidency. So we went from to $622 million in 2024, still a lot of money, to at least $2.2 billion since he returned to the presidency. They say one of his biggest hauls in 2025 came when an investment firm tied to the United Arab Emirates bought nearly half of the Trump family's main crypto company, World Liberty Financial, transaction that blurred the line between foreign policy and private enterprise, to put it mildly. He also collected hundreds of millions of dollars from sale of his Trump meme coin and World Liberty sale of its own digital tokens. The results, detailed Mr. Trump's mandatory disclosures, released Tuesday, pulled back the curtain on his business operations. His crypto ventures, the report shows, are now some of his most lucrative enterprises. A remarkable turnabout for a man who once slammed crypto as a haven for drug dealers and scammers. He realized, I could be one of those scammers. Why shouldn't I be involved in the scamming that's going on in crypto? And the World Liberty Financial transaction that happened here with the UAE, we covered it at the time, Emily. Yeah. Right after that, guess what? He said, you know what? We can export some of these highly advanced chips that you're looking for. He did something that they wanted, the UAE wanted, shortly after this massive cash windfall comes to him through his cryptocurrency.
Well, this is another one that gets lost, and I'm trying to look it up exactly what it is, but the Trump Organization is currently working on a big development project in Doha. So it's not even just that. It's all tied together. And don't tell me that Donald Trump doesn't know his sons are working on a development project in Doha. It's obviously ridiculous to say that that's not the case, that he has no knowledge of it. And this is not, I forget who said this the other day, but this is, I wish I could give them credit for this exact quote, but this is like real money. People were saying with Hunter Biden, which we covered here, by the way, and I cared about a lot. And
yeah.
We had Ken Vogel on. We talked about all of this stuff
Absolutely.
At the time. It was ridiculous. This is billions. This is billions of dollars, and it is really directly tied back into, yes, I think there are still very serious questions about Burisma and Carlos Slim and all these deals that were happening with the Bidens. This is like literally peace deals that are being made in the Middle East by people who are invested with the countries. Their companies are invested with the countries that are at the center of the negotiations. There's never really been anything quite like this.
Yeah, it's a complete smash and grab and a sale of U.S. foreign policy. I mean, that's genuinely, you can't look at the picture and think of it otherwise. Glad you brought up Hunter Biden. I had Claude make a little chart to help us visualize just the dollar amount differences that we're talking about here. Put A10 up on the screen. So on the one side here, that little tiny sliver that you can't even see, okay, those are the reported Hunter Biden earnings from Burisma over 5 years, okay? You can almost see it. It's about $5 million. You can almost see it there. That was his board salary from 2014 to 2019, over 5 years' time, okay? Trump on the right, this is just from one part of his crypto earnings from 1 year. $1.4 billion roughly. That was just in 2025. And Claude gave us this little helpful disclosure here. Note, these are not the same apple-to-apple comparison. Hunter's figure is personal board salary over 5 years per the DOJ tax indictment. Trump is 1 year of business venture income, 2025 federal financial disclosure, Reuters calculation. Trump is about 280 times larger. Both figures exclude value that flowed through intermediary entities. So just to give people a sense of proportion here of what we are talking about. Okay, you can barely see the Hunter Biden piece. And we covered it, Emily, to your point, extensively. Extensively. And Ryan had like encyclopedic knowledge of all of the Biden, like corrupt, using the name, you know, his brother, all that stuff. Extensively, we covered it here. There was a lot of right-wing concern about the Biden family profiteering. I think that's fine. I think that's fair. That's why we covered it. You cannot even wrap your head around how much more profound, how much larger, and how much more impactful in terms of the way that our government and our country is behaving in the world. It is all tied into, is Trump profiting? Are his sons profiting? Is Kushner profiting? Is Witkoff profiting? Are his kids profiting? I mean, again, we are narrowly focused here directly on Trump today, but the circle of graft and corruption in this government, it appears to be that their primary focus and the lens through which they filter their decision-making is how can I get a cut? How can I personally enrich myself or my family off of the operations of the United States federal government? And there's always been corruption. We have never seen anything in our history. And I would dare to say, you know, in world history, in terms of the dollar amounts, in world history, you would be hard-pressed to find larger dollar sums flowing to the head of state and his family directly.
Well, if we put the chart back up on the screen just briefly, I want to say if you put together all of the different Hunter Biden deals that we learned about from the laptop and leaks and the like, it would probably not even get to that $200 million mark, which is the first part of the chart for the listening audience. So we're looking at 1.4 billion. But if this is Burisma, but if you put together like Romania, Mexico, all of these other countries that Hunter Biden was trying to cut deals with, which by the way were involving influence peddling, where he was basically offering access, and so was his entire family, Frank Biden, James Biden, Valerie Biden Owen, that was happening. But the scale would still be, and you could put it all together, it would be tough because they were doing so many random deals, but the scale would still be wildly disproportionate between the Trump crypto grift and the Biden grift overall. And in fact, the crypto grift is just the tip of the iceberg because they're also doing all these investment deals, and they also involve Steve Witkoff, Howard Lutnick, and others. So the influence peddling does, I think, a real moral injury to the country. There's some kernel of truth in what Trump says when he claims nobody cares. He learned that nobody cared. I do think some of that comes from much of the like mainstream, quote unquote, mainstream media downplaying some of the Biden stuff. We're just not covering it as vociferously.
No, I don't buy that.
Let's do it.
I mean, look, at a certain point, you just have to say that his graft is so overwhelming that, first of all, it makes it very difficult to focus on it. And that is part of their strategy with this administration overall was, you know, at the beginning, we're going to have all of these executive orders and do all of these outrageous things, but they're going to be so much and so insane that you can't keep track of it.
100%.
It's the same thing with the graft. So look, you know, we can talk about mainstream media failures all day long, but the bottom line is they have really given Trump kind of a pass. They grade him on a curve in a lot of regards. There was way more focus on Hunter's paintings and Hunter's this and Hunter's that than there are on these corrupt dealings. It's just sort of accepted as this is just how he operates and what he does. So, you know, I don't think that they are primarily I don't think the fact that they let the Bidens off the hook has anything to do with, you know, what we see in the coverage today. I think that Trump realized he can get away with it because he can just do so much. And, you know, and not just here, create so much controversy throughout the entire country and the entire globe and start wars and kidnap foreign leaders that people aren't going to be able to focus on this. And if you wanted to point anywhere to blame, you have the Supreme Court saying, and you can do what you want. And there's going to be no consequences. So it's off to the races.
Well, and I think the Biden stuff, I mean, these are, to be clear, I think they're completely on different levels. I think the Biden stuff was also so spread out and scattered that it was hard for anybody to focus on and latch onto.
Let's also be clear, like, we're talking about Hunter Biden, okay?
And Joe Biden,
the only thing we have on him is like 10% to the big guy. That's the most that we ever got on any direct Joe Biden corruption. He didn't even own stocks as president of the United States. So, you know, it's also very different when you're talking about Trump himself versus, you know, Hunter and Burisma and these sort of like things that are tangential. They're related, and obviously I covered it. Now at this point, I honestly regret covering it as much as I did because it is of such a different scale and proportion. Nancy Pelosi's stock trading got nothing on what Trump has been up to.
Well, there was melding of the Biden finances in like vague ways, but you're completely correct. I think that's absolutely true. What I was saying about Trump's point on this kernel of truth being that he learns nobody cares, I think what happened is that institutional trust in the country just completely cratered. And so people put all of this beside them now, and they're like, yeah, you guys are all garbage. And Trump has this unique insight into the American public, realizing that politicians are no longer seen in, like, there's no veneer of moral benefit of the doubt that people assign to their politicians or ascribe to politicians anymore. And so he's picked up on that, and he realizes that nope, it doesn't matter. There is no longer this pretense that our politicians are great human beings. And so many politicians still cling to that. This idea that, like, well, I'm in an elected office. Like, I have the dignity of the office attached to me. How dare you question me on X, Y, or Z? And Trump's like, nobody cares about that. So I'm going to do whatever the hell I want to do because it's 2026 and people's expectations are in the basement.
Yeah, certainly. Although I will say, I think that there is a rising stench around this, a rising sense that this is of a different nature and kind, and the size and scope of it is so different from what we've seen in the past. And I've even seen some sort of more like right-wing people being like, oh, if you want to have socialists sweep the entire country, this financial disclosure is how you're going to help to make that happen.
Yep,
because
it is
so
last
disgusting.
Night. It's exactly how that happens. I mean, and you could go back to the first Gilded Age, because we're obviously in the second Gilded Age now, and see certain like capitalists panicking about exactly that. What did Lenin say? The capitalists would give us the rope to hang them with. Like, that's happening right now. How could you possibly create less trust in the financial system? Milton Friedman actually